everyone, this is Pick for Life, and I'm actually back for kind of a part 2 review of the X-Transbots Apollyon production sample that I did a review on yesterday. That got a lot of comments and interest, so I wanted to follow up because a lot of people wanted to see a couple of things. So first, they wanted to see some comparisons with some other Megatrons, so I'm going to do that. I'm also going to show the transformation, which is number 2, from gun to robot mode. I usually show both ways, but just for time purposes, I didn't show it yesterday, but that's been requested pretty frequently, so I'll do that. And third, I'll be doing a comparison with other Masterpiece figures once I get them into robot mode. And fourth, and last, what I'll actually be doing throughout the video is just kind of answering a frequently asked questions that I got over the last 24 hours about the different things to consider about Apollyon in terms of gun mode, robot mode, certain specifics. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, the alt mode here, we have 3 different figures. So we have the official Masterpiece MP5 Megatron, which is currently out of scale with the current line of Masterpiece figures. We have Apollyon in the middle from X-Transbots. And up front we have another fan favorite, the Toy World Hegemon, which is kind of a classic scale Megatron, G1 Megatron. And they all do a decent job of looking like a handgun in alt mode. The Hegemon is the most inaccurate in terms of alt mode and looking actually like a P38. You can see the grip is a lot different, doesn't look like an actual grip. The trigger is much different in terms of shape. You can see some of the robot mode chest here, and then even the scope or sight, whatever you want to call it, is on the back as opposed to closer to the middle of the gun. So there's a lot of differences in that mode compared to the others. The most accurate actually probably is the Masterpiece figure. We'll take a look at that in a second. So taking a look at Apollyon next to Hegemon. Size-wise, Hegemon is the only one that really kind of feels like a P38 in hand in terms of overall size, I think. He's still kind of thick in terms of the handle, but he's already a pretty sizable gun in this small classic scale. The second thing I'll look at is Apollyon. You can see he's really big, nice spring-loaded. He does have a bit of kibble here and there. Some here, this black piece here kind of stands out. Overall, he does look quite good, but again, they do take some liberties to make it look like a really good robot mode. So the alt mode sacrifices just a little bit. Alright, I'm going to try to get the big one up front. So this is MP5, and he is just massive. He is barely grippable by my, I guess I would say, medium-sized hands. And yeah, he looks really, really nice in alt mode, but those of you who know what he looks like in robot mode know he does look kind of terrible in robot mode. One thing I will note is I do have the Just Eye Toys accessory kit already installed, so this part here is die cast. The reason I'm going to do that is because I want to also show you some comparisons with the accessories that you typically get with a G1 Megatron, which includes the stock and the suppressors. Alright, so overall, alt mode, this guy wins out. So I think for my collection, I'm going to just leave him in alt mode and display him. While for robot mode, for my Masterpiece collection, I'll definitely have Apollyon. Alright, so let me see if I can get this guy balanced again. He was actually quite difficult to get balanced. Oh, wow, that actually worked. Alright, so the next thing I'll do is actually show you what the accessories looks like on each of these guys. So all of them have I have a set of stock and suppressors for everyone. So first thing we'll do is go ahead and get those installed, and I'll be right back. Alright, so these are all pretty huge with their attachments, so I'm sorry I can't get them all in frame, and I'll try my best to kind of show them all off. So again, starting with Toy World's Hegemon, it comes with the suppressor and comes with the stock here. This is the most like inaccurate stock because it actually doesn't kind of act like a stock. It acts more like a stand. It doesn't actually go vertical here, but that's kind of how they designed it. It's not bad, and it does have more function, has some functionality to it, like storage for weapons. But as far as accuracy for alt mode, it is not very accurate. So let's get him out of the way. Next up we have Apollyon, and I showed this off yesterday. I wanted to show this because you can see just how similar Apollyon is in terms of accessories with the Just Eye Toys upgrade kit. I showed you kind of the alternate configurations for cannons, and they basically copy almost exactly the way Just Eye Toys did it in terms of how things position, how things transform. I remember here, this stock here, how it transforms by pressing down and splitting the front part of the stock. That is exactly how it works here. So give me a second. Oops. So this is a Just Eye Toys upgrade kit, and it works the same way. You press down and you split it apart. Even these sections here are very similar in the sense that they do detach and allow for multiple configurations, and the configurations look essentially the same. Alright, so I'll put these off to the side. There were some questions regarding the orange plugs on Apollyon, and I mentioned this yesterday when I put this on. I wasn't able to actually install the suppressor with the plug on. I don't think it's designed to. And as far as it being removable, see, it doesn't actually go all the way in. It leaves that gap. So as far as it being removable, I heard it's going to be glued in. I honestly don't know. This one doesn't seem like it was glued in, at least not when I got it. And again, I'm not the first one to have gotten this figure from Toy Dojo, so you can remove it. You should be able to remove it fairly easily. On the suppressor itself, this looks like it was glued in. It has some residue here, but somebody clearly took it off, or it was really weak glue, because I was able to remove it fairly easily. So if you want a non-orange plug look for your Apollyon, you can probably get it without too much hassle. Let me plug this back on as to not to get anyone in trouble. Move this guy out of the way. And then, last but not least, the Masterpiece Megatron with Just Eye Toys upgrade kit. This one also came with a plug on the front. This one also came off fairly easily, but it was a yellow plug. So in the back row we have the Just Eye Toys upgrade and their parts, and on the front row we have the X-Transbots Apollyon accessories. The only difference in terms of kind of the number of pieces is that the Apollyon one does have a separate, the barrel separates into two parts, which is, I think, more for getting it in the box than for any real purpose. So, yeah, they're pretty identical. The stock pieces, as you can see, as I showed before, they look pretty identical, they transform pretty identically, just a little bit smaller with the Apollyon version. This piece that connects to the barrel, very similar. And this may be the case because the P38 stock and suppressor may kind of look like this or function like this. I honestly don't know. So if you guys do know that they're mimicking the actual P38 and not, you know, looking like the Just Eye Toys one, let me know, because I just don't. This piece here, fairly similar, even in this section here. This section that kind of makes up the handle for when you do the cannon mode, they both have fold out handles. They both operate slightly differently, and the molded details is different. This one has kind of a round grip, while this one has a square one. The Just Eye Toys one also, you can actually load fake bullets into it and fire them, which is kind of cool. And again, the barrels, which look very similar as well. I did want to do a quick comparison of the scope itself. Very similar overall in detail. The way they attach is different. This one is just a peg. This one actually slides on, which I believe is more accurate to a rail system. The Just iToys one does have an LED that glows red. You have to press it down so it doesn't stay on. It's not an on-off switch, it's an activate switch. Which is going to bring me to the Apollyon cannon, which also works very similarly. The difference is you actually turn this knob. There we go. And to install it, it's fairly simple. So to install it, I'm going to show you guys exactly what to do. The first thing you're going to do is actually unplug this. This part is a little difficult to get off, so you might have to just be careful pulling it off. Don't lose that piece. The next thing you'll do is take a screwdriver and remove these two screws. While I do this, I'll let you guys know that you're going to need 3 AG1 batteries. They're also equivalent to a whole slew of other equivalent names that I'm not going to list off, but if you type AG1 into any search engine for batteries, you should be able to find it without a problem. I got mine from Amazon. So once you do that, you actually pull the barrel out slightly. Be careful because there are wires here, you see that? They give enough slack so that you don't have to worry too much about it, but just be careful anyway. Then you actually split this in half. If I can actually get it to split. Come on. There we go. So you split off this left side here, and that reveals the electronics. So there's a few things that you need to do. You need to put the 3 batteries in here, but it's held into place with this kind of, I don't know, this kind of sheet metal, thin piece of sheet metal. The instructions say to bend this phalange back and then just insert the batteries in there and then bend it forward. I tried that, it didn't work that well. I think what you should do is just unscrew these 2 small screws here, insert the batteries, and then screw these back in, and that will ensure that, you know, also when you replace it, when you bend that piece back and forth over enough times, it's going to eventually break off, since it's a thin piece of metal. So again, I recommend just going ahead and unscrewing those. Alright, so to reinstall, if this part fell off or this part fell off, basically just make sure this red part's on top, tab that in, tab this in. You do want to make sure that this piece looks like this, or when it's rotated, this peg is in the front. Tab that, and then sandwich these pieces in. Then you can just kind of work this front part in. Make sure it's aligned okay. Close it up. Close that tab up, and then replace the screws. And you got these 2 Phillips heads. I didn't mention it earlier, but you need to position it so that when you insert them, the flat or positive side is facing you. So again, 3 AG1 batteries. Just insert those, positive side towards you, and you should be good to go. And again, there's a little bit of text here which is really hard to read, so I'm not even going to bother zooming in. It basically says turn counterclockwise to turn it off, and then turn clockwise to turn it on. It's really quite bright. So hopefully that answers your questions about the LED in the scope. Sorry I didn't do it yesterday. I just didn't have the batteries. They just literally came today. Alright, so that's it for the battery install. In terms of configuration, I showed you guys the configurations before. I'm not going to show you, but they basically, because the parts are almost identical, you install them, and you can actually use the scope with these as well. I didn't show that off yesterday, but you can use the scope in different configurations, and there's so many different ports that you can probably make some cool ones of your own. So let's transform Apollyon from alt mode to robot mode. And I'm going to try to do this without taking off the scope, but if it falls off, I'm just going to keep going. But it's totally possible without doing it. It's just a little bit more cumbersome. So the first thing we will deal with is actually the scope. So we're going to untab that here. You have two tabs here that untab. You're going to rotate this around and down on this side, and then you rotate this forward. There's one thing I do want to show you guys. Again, this part needs to rotate up now that it's in gun mode. It's kind of hard to do here or even see. So I just want to show you that you have to rotate this up so it's straight like that. I recommend taking it off for that just because it's a lot easier and it is kind of a tight joint. But you can do this on here. I just wouldn't want to risk damaging any of this articulating piece. Next up, we're going to deal with these two pieces of black that actually connect to the arm that we saw yesterday. And you just need to pull forward on this, and that kind of pulls it up off of the handle. And then you split the back, and the same thing on this side, just pull that up. From here, you're going to want to separate the slide. So the arms from the chest, just separate that like so. Next thing we'll do is actually expand the chest. So you're going to slide this up. From here, you're going to want to fold in these black pieces. You can do that later too. Let's see, what will be easier? Well, here, let's do this. Let's split the arms first. And once you split them, make sure that you rotate the shoulders out. So you're going to want to rotate these 90 degrees to get these arms out. And then, as we did yesterday, we actually want to reverse. We want to pull this, rotate this shoulder joint, this black piece, so that it's actually kind of straight with this die-cast piece. So again, rotate out like so. And then you're going to basically rotate this whole shoulder joint, the ball joint with the black piece up, so it's kind of straightened out. And you're going to need to do that to attach to those these pieces here to secure the shoulder. So the next thing you're going to do is we can deal with the cannon, I suppose, the barrel. You're going to want to pull up or forward towards the front of the gun, and then pull to the right. And bring that back. Then you're going to go to the top and pull this up, and that releases from this ridge here. That will allow you to fold the opening down like that, and then you just reach in and kind of grab Apollyon's head, rotate it up and around, and then you close it back up. One thing I didn't know yesterday that I wanted to show off was that Apollyon does come with this little Apollyon scratch-free film, and they do that because since this barrel kind of rests up like this, it often collides with the back, and so they have this little plastic film that tries to reduce or minimize any kind of paint chipping from the die-cast hitting the paint, which was pretty thoughtful of X-Transbot. I like that. They definitely didn't need to go and do that, but and they definitely didn't need to label it, but they went ahead and did that, so that's kind of funny. Next, we're going to deal with this small piece here, which is kind of hard to get at. So if you look at it from the side, you can actually grab it and pull it out. That's the easiest way to get at it. Yesterday I did it with a spudger tool. If you want to do it that way, you can do that way as well. So you just extend that out and then rotate it down. So you rotate it down this way, and that creates that opening. Before you rotate these die-cast pieces down, you do want to pull these pieces out, which will be the shoulder supports. People keep asking me about whether there's a support for the cannon arm, and I don't see that. I think this might be what they were talking about before. I didn't see anything else that could be a support just for the cannon arm. I think maybe they just incorporated it on both sides. I'm not sure. Maybe X-Transbots will show it later, but I just haven't been able to find it in the instructions that I was given, or just from kind of observation. I'm not saying it's not there, but my theory is that it's these white pieces that we're already looking at. So go ahead and slide these die-cast pieces through. Make sure to pass. The black piece has to get forward of that, so just make sure you can get around there. Slide this die-cast piece through. Get this through like that. Once that's all in, kind of lift up that entire piece. That gives you a bit more room. Then you can rotate this piece up, tab it in again. There's some paint chipping here just because you do have to grab at it. And again, I'm hoping that the paint is a little bit better, but that's just a piece you're going to have to grab a lot if you transform a lot. So you can probably avoid it by using a spudger tool like I did yesterday or something to get around the side of that. So now that we have the arm pieces through, oops, this shoulder piece went back in. There we go. So again, there's a little slot here, and you're going to want to rotate this from this side counterclockwise so it tabs into place. It's hard to kind of explain without seeing it. Let's see if I can get a decent shot of it. There's basically a square slot here that corresponds to the slot. You just want to rotate that in. Oh, here. So sorry for doing that, but this way at least you can see there's this small slot here, and that comes around like this. There we go. Rotate Apollyon's chest 90 degrees so it's facing kind of forward. And we're mostly done with the upper body. We'll deal with the arm now, I suppose. One of the things I wish that they did was actually have small tabs that corresponded to here. These small peg holes. That way it would stay on more securely. It does stay on pretty securely, like it doesn't actually fall off when you do this or even shake it, but it would just been nice to just have those posts or pegs. So dealing with the arms, we're going to extend them. One thing I'll talk about a little bit later is the extension part. I actually did kind of mess around with it to see if I can get it to fully extend, and I did, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But slide this black piece all the way back, and there's a tab that has a corresponding slot up there. Just pull this down, fold this up like so. This top piece, which was situated like that, you want to rotate down, and then you're going to fold that downwards, and there's a little tab down here. But first you're going to want to rotate the fist out. And then you close that up, which fills in the kind of arm gap. And that tab keeps it from rotating too much. And then you fold this piece down. Rotate the hands 180. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So first we're going to extend. Oh, dang it. Alright, sorry about that. We're going to rotate this piece, just basically flip it up first. This side is easier to flip it up first and then rotate and then tab it down. But just remember to get the fist out before you do that, because I was about to forget. Same thing with this black piece from the other side, just fold it down, and then if this piece is up, just fold it flat, close it up, and it mostly removes the gap. There's still a tiny gap there, but not a whole lot. And then on this side, Again, slide this all the way back and then fold it up. And that tab will go into the back of the bicep. So the upper body is pretty much done. I think it is done. Now we're going to do the lower body. Sorry about that, everyone. My camera ran out of batteries. So I think we're done with the upper body. The next thing we'll do is actually deal with the lower body. And the first thing we'll do is get these little pieces out of the way in order to make the hips go forward and not block these die-cast pieces here. You're going to want to rotate this down. And just don't block the holes on either side because you're going to need those. Before we actually do that, we can actually open up this piece here, the crotch piece, and you need to look in underneath, and from the other weight transformation you know that we had to fold them in a particular order. We have to open up in a particular order as well. So looking from the bottom like this, you want to open up to the right first, and then the other side will flip open as well. Then you're going to fold this entire piece downward. That kind of forms the crotch. Now coming to the back, just split the legs gently. Swing them forward. Like so. We're going to need to get rid of the trigger. So we're going to split the crotch, and that will release this trigger piece to go down like so. These are going to fold forward. And then eventually these two are going to fold open and form the butt, I guess. But before we do that, we'll go ahead and deal with the legs. I think it's easier to deal with the legs after, but maybe it'll be easier to because we're not going to be able to have good access. So first thing we'll do is open up these skirts from each side. They untab. They kind of hold the legs together. And now we need to actually extend the leg. So you just need to get a good grip and just slide it out like so. Fairly easy. Just get a good grip somewhere, slide it out. You'll know that they're slid all the way out when this gray piece reaches the top here with no gap. Next thing we'll do is now we can actually tab in the hip pieces. So these little black pieces that we took out earlier, they're kind of annoying because they don't hold into place. They're just kind of loose, and they can flop back into the air, flop back, and that's kind of annoying. So to get the hips done, you need these 3 tabs, one down here, one here, and then there's one on the hips that has a corresponding hole right up there. And you just kind of need to get that in like so. This crotch piece is sometimes hard to get in position because that also, the alignment has to be specific in a certain way. So you kind of just need to get it all square to get everything to fit. Really hard to see. There we go. Finally. Okay. So once you have that done, we're going to transform the leg. I'll flip the legs like this just so you can see them a bit better. And what we're going to do is deal with the back panel first. So there's a tab back here. You can see it already kind of pulling out. So you just want to pull that out and rotate. And the second thing you have to do is actually untab this peg here, which goes into that little hole. And that will allow you, free you up to rotate up. So the way it works is it rotates up on this weird hinge swivel. It's a weird swivel, not hinge. And that goes up like that. While you do that, you need to release this, and that goes on its little arm. It's easier to see from this side. See how it basically flip-flops, goes up like so. Dealing with the front, you need to unpeg. So this is what's pegged in here. You just need to pull that out and unpeg it, and that way you can use this swivel up here to rotate that up, fold this down. This doesn't sit completely flat. It has kind of a gap. That would have been nicer if it sat flat, but it doesn't. And once you rotate that up, this little tab and groove here kind of all align. Should align like that. It makes it a pretty solid leg. Then we're going to deal with the inner leg. We're going to rotate this around, rotate it 180 degrees, then fold it flat. This piece folds flat here, but this just kind of dangles. This is probably one of the worst parts of the design, that it just dangles and doesn't go anywhere. This trigger folds up, this trigger piece folds up, and then we can deal with the foot. Dealing with the foot, just open this up, pull the heel back so it's in the correct position, fold out the front part of the toe, or the instep basically, fold that down, and then you have to collapse the leg. So just collapse the ankle all the way down like that. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing on this side. Pretty simple. We're just going to do it kind of quickly. Again, untab all this on this side, untab this piece and untap that, rotate that back up, use the little articulating joint here that goes up and around like that, rotate that up. Once this swings up like so, fold this down. This all kind of sits, forms a solid leg. Then we deal with the inner part of the leg again. We're going to fold this out like that, rotate it 180, fold it flat, fold this part flat, rotate this down, rotate this up. The foot, flip this up, rotate the toe forward, get the heel straight, fold this down. So it is a bit of a hollow foot. This doesn't this can go in too far, you just need to position it. But the foot and ankle are really solid overall. I really like the feet on this guy. Oh, and I forgot to collapse. So just slide this all the way up. Alright. Oh, this must have... I got to the end. Fell off. I was just trying to rotate it around. And here we have Apollyon back in robot mode. So there were a couple questions about the shoulders. So the shoulders look pretty thin, and I'm gonna pop this off just so you can get a better look at it. They look pretty thin, but this die cast is really sturdy. It's really strong. These arm pieces that make up the bracket look really thin, but they're die cast. They're metal. They're actually quite strong. This shoulder piece is really solid. Hold on, let's zoom up a bit. So this piece is really strong. Like, I'm pressing down on it pretty hard, it's not moving. This support is what really gives it a lot of strength. But the ball joint itself is really, really sturdy as well. People asked about the paper that was in here. So when I got it, there was paper in here, probably to help stiffen it up. I'm hoping that you're not going to need that when you get the final production. I'm hoping that the tolerances are a bit tighter, and I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I'm really hoping they will be. The X-Transbot team is asking for feedback, so I'm sending them an email later. You can just pop this back on. In terms of tightness, it has no problem with this arm. Again, you only get limited range of motion that way, but overall it's a pretty solid joint there. This side also had a piece of paper earlier. You can pop that back on, and it holds the arm decently well. Sometimes I can get it to stick, but I've been messing around with it a lot with their transformation, so it's probably gotten a little bit looser. But they do definitely need to tighten that up in the final release. But that's pretty minor, that's just tolerances. I think the bigger issue is this. They need to tighten that up because it basically makes them stand at attention. But this one is not that bad. It's actually probably just because I've been messing around with it and probably has some grease on my fingers or something like that. So yeah, there is that. Oh, since I already popped the arm off, I wanted to talk about the bicep. So I found out that everything seems to work really well. The only thing is that once I took out this screw on the front here, and it's because when that screws in, it actually keeps the front part of the bicep from coming out. So it'll kind of come in crooked like this. it won't allow it to come out. But once I took that out, and I don't know what it is because I can't really see in there even when I took this out, I think it just creates just enough resistance up here that the front of the bicep doesn't come down. But with this, it can collapse fine, solid, pulls out fine, and it rotates perfectly without stressing anything. The one thing that they do have to fix is that there is some interference for the bicep here. It runs into this peg, which goes into the elbow for transformation to solidify that slide part. So they do need to shave this down just a little bit so you can actually get it rotated. You can rotate it through, but you're going to be stressing that plastic, which you don't want to do, or marring this elbow piece, which again you don't want to do. And I think that's minor. If they just cut off part of that peg, I think that should be fine. So yeah, just this front one, and it's the case on both sides. I think it's just a weird positioning of where that screw is. So with this one, now I can... Oh, I can't pull it out that way just because there's interference. But again, this swivel does work with that front screw out. So I'm letting them know that's clearly where the issue is. None of the other screws seem to have any impact on that. Alright, so give me a second and let me pull in a couple of comparisons and then I'll move on to the Megatron comparison. So there were a lot of requests. I'm not going to be able to do them all just because there's just so many. So let's first and foremost do some of the Decepticons. Here he is with the new Skywarp. And of course with his trusty first lieutenant, I guess, for second in command, Starscream. Essentially the same, they're same mold, so not much difference there. The height, I like the height and scale that they have with each other. That looks really great. Let's put them off to the side. Another one of his faithful companions, well, not always faithful, but Shockwave, Soundwave. Again, all these look really good in terms of how they scale with Apollyon, or actually with how Apollyon scales with him. Somebody asked for Transistor. Since he's basically the same height as Soundwave, you can see that works pretty well. Just because on the angle that he's at, in the video I'm looking at, it makes him look taller than Apollyon. He is actually not. It's just the angle which the camera is kind of positioned. Get him out of the way. I think someone asked, it might have been Deal Culpa? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They wanted to see him with Warden with his upgrade kit. I don't have my upgrade kit right now, unfortunately. I did have it, but then I had to send it to somebody. So this is what he looks like unupgraded, and you should have an idea of what he looks like with the upgrade. So hopefully you kind of get an idea of where he stands. Get him out of the way. Who else do I want to compare him to? Somebody asked for the Dinobots Fans Toys figures. Let me get them transformed. I honestly don't have them transformed into robot mode right now. So give me a second. Again, here's MP10, which I showed off in the previous review. And they stand basically head to head, top of the head to top of the head. Very quickly with the new Combiner Wars Leader Megatron. I guess to be fair, I should straighten out his legs. Have him stand upright. This head sculpt is overall better than this head sculpt. I think the eyes still are weaker than this one, but overall, when people were like, "Oh, why aren't you using Leader Megatron as your masterpiece?" is because I know this guy was coming out and he just looks way better with the masterpiece line, obviously. Alright, sorry about that quick break. Let's go ahead and bring in Fantoys Scoria, because again someone's requested that. So Scoria is a bit taller. I'm not going to bring out Soar just because I don't want to transform any more figures today. There's so many, and after having to transform this guy that's coming in, I'm just I posted on TFW that I had to transform this guy for this review, and that was in the fetal position, sobbing like a little girl, and that is pretty close to accurate. Transforming this guy is not fun. It's not. It's you feel like you're gonna break a lot of stuff. So someone asked me who is scarier to transform, Apollyon or MP5. MP5 is way scarier. There's weaker plastic like on the legs here. There are some thin pieces here, but it's not stuff that you're gonna really wrench or do a lot with. So like these pieces here, yeah, they're thin and they're on a thin joint. You could easily break them, but you're not playing with that part much. You're playing with these hips for transformation and for posing all the time, and it's way worse with this guy. In terms of paint, I did talk about how his paint is actually quite good all around. They don't have any like overspray or any bad paint that I can see. There are some areas I wish again that they had more paint on, like the abdomen area, like here. But that's really preference. Some of the cartoons had him gray on the front and only red on the side. They did try to protect the paint, as I mentioned before, back here where it rubs against the die cast with that film. Someone mentioned that it'd be great to have black paint on the back here, on the inside of this trigger piece, and I think that's a really great idea. I just don't know if it's practical to apply a little bit of paint on the inside. It's probably a lot more work than it's really worth, but it's probably something that I'm going to consider doing to my personal Apollyon. So I think I've covered most of these comparisons. Let's go ahead and get a Hegemon to compare. I think Hegemon is also a great figure overall for the classic scale. This guy I think is better. I think he looks better overall in terms he's not as blocky. His legs are better. His feet are a lot nicer in terms of posability. His overall silver paint job as opposed to gray plastic, which has notorious swirls, which are common with gray. In terms of overall articulation, Apollyon blows both of these guys out of the water in terms of hips, knees. He has a good range of motion. His ankle I already talked about. His arms are where Apollyon, you guys, a lot of people have been complaining about his arms. There's the ball joint is actually much better than what these two have. These two basically have just a rotation, straight rotation, and he does have another joint here which you can go out on. This joint here is just kind of terrible, and there's a lot of interference, more so than with Apollyon. So I think you're getting the most articulation with this guy. You got really great hands, which I talked about in the review. Once they get that bicep swivel fixed, or if you just remove that first screw, which shouldn't affect anything on your figure, you should be really good in terms of arm articulation aside from going out, which is limited to about 45 degrees. Alright, what else can I talk about? I mean, overall, I think Apollyon is a win. That's one of the questions that I've gotten a lot, even though I've already kind of mentioned that in my first review, that I think he is a really great figure overall. I highly recommend him as a purchase for your masterpiece shelf. There's a lot to love about this guy. There are a few things that again, I agree with everyone that the ball joints do need to be tightened up a bit, so that it's really only for this arm, because I mean he can slowly droop it down. It kind of reminds me of when Scoria first came out, his shoulder issues. He's holding a lot more weight just because of this cannon than Scoria was with his little sword. So I'm pretty sure that KFC is gonna be aware of that and fix that. The bicep thing, I'm hoping they'll be able to fix somehow. But overall, yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to buy this figure with the amount of accessories that you get, the overall look of this guy, the quality that you're getting. Plastic quality wise, he's better than any X-Transbots figure that I've seen produced or messed with personally. And that's a really positive sign for the figures that are coming out with their Beachcomber and some of their other figures that are coming out soon, their Andros, their Scourge. So I'm really looking forward to what they come up with next. If I missed any questions, I apologize. I'm trying to keep up with so many different areas on the forums, the Facebook pages, Facebook groups. If I missed anything, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below or on my Facebook page, Pig for Life Reviews, and I'll try to answer those as much as possible. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share with your friends. And if you like what I'm doing, go ahead and click the subscribe button up here and keep up to date with all the things I'm doing. Once again, a shout out to X-Transbots. Thank you for letting me do this review, and also Toy Dojo, who's the sponsor of this review, whose sample I've been using. If you want to pick this guy up for your collection, go ahead and click on the Toy Dojo link in the description below and pick one up for yourself. But yeah, I think that's all for today, everyone. Hopefully this extra review showing the transformation, the comparisons, answering some of your questions really did help you decide whether this guy's right for your collection or not. Alright, so I'm excited to get this guy. Hope you guys are too. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good one.